Did you know that you can make your own one-of-a-kind lip gloss? I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my experience at Lip Lab. Lip Lab is a small chain founded by Bite Beauty where you can walk in and make your own lip gloss, lip balm, and lipstick. They have several locations all over the United States and Canada, but as far as I know, I haven't seen that they exist anywhere else. I personally don't have one located close to where I live, but I've been to 2 different locations in New York City last year and this year, and you can customize the color and the finish to being exactly the way that you want it to be. And you get to try it on throughout the process of making it so you can be absolutely sure that when you leave, you're going to be happy with the product that you made. Another really cool thing is that the exact formula is saved in a database, so if you want a refill of your lip product, you can get that at any time. So let me get into showing you what I created. As many of you know, I absolutely love color cosmetics and I love unique shades. And I knew right away that I wanted one of my glosses to be gray, and I have a hard time saying no to a shimmery gloss, so I decided to make mine shimmery. And I also wanted to be able to wear it alone with a lip liner or topped over other lip products to cool down a lip combination. I named the shade Fog, and here's what it looks like swatched. And here's just a little bit of footage where you can see the mixology process. I wanted to add a little bit of black into the shade to make it darker. But since I already had several other dark shades, I didn't want this one to be too close to any of the others. And then here's a little try on the lips. You can see that it does look really nice all on its own. And I think that's because although it has a little bit of milkiness to it, it's still quite sheer. But also one of my favorite ways to wear a gray gloss is with a brown lip liner. So I thought I would go ahead and add one so you could see what that combination looked like. And I know I've talked about these liners a lot, but I adore the lip liners from Unearthly. They're only $6. You get a ton of product, and they have such beautiful deep shades. I named my next shade Blood Moon, which I think is such a perfect name for this vampy red gloss. I find shades like this so hard to come by. And the ones that do exist, I feel like are particularly opaque, which has a time and a place, but on a day-to-day basis, I do prefer my glosses to have a sheerness to them. And here's what Blood Moon looks like swatched. And the main pigments that were used to make this gloss were blue, black, and red. And basically what we did is play around with different ratios of these shades until we made the exact shade that we wanted to make. Here's a little try-on of that shade that I did in the store. I was absolutely blown away with this one. I wasn't expecting to like it quite as much as I did. And when I put this one on the lips, I think you can see that while it does have a good opacity, you can really build it up. And I also have to mention that I really do find this formula of lip gloss from Lip Lab to be fantastic. This is totally the type of shade that I would wear all by itself. You don't need a lip liner for this one or to make it a lip combo. Okay, the next gloss that I made was a really deep blue. I called this one Midnight. And although I love light and ethereal blue glosses, and there's so many of them on the market, there really aren't that many deep blue glosses, especially that have a certain sheerness to them. So the inspiration behind this shade is, of course, that I wanted to make a unique shade of blue. And I wanted to be careful that you could tell that it was blue and that it wasn't so deep that it almost looked like it was black. So I think you can tell in the swatch that this definitely looks like a blue gloss. And here's the part where we're adding a little bit of light blue into the gloss because it was sort of looking like a gray black at this point. And I really wanted to be able to tell that this was a blue gloss. And by the way, the people working at Lip Lab have such a good handle on color theory. Like, isn't the process of mixing all these pigments just so satisfying and fun? And at this point I was satisfied with the shade, so we were writing down the ratios of the pigments. And then of course we're going to do a little try on. This is another shade that I think looks so good all on its own. Like, you could wear it over other lip products or with a lip liner, but all by itself, it's super beautiful. Next, I made a shade called Smoky Plum, and my goal with this shade was to have a cool toned and deep purple. I didn't want it to look too grape, but also given that I had just made a deep blue gloss, I didn't want it to look too similar to that one either. So basically, to make this gloss, we played around with different ratios of red, light blue, and black. And the mixology clips for this one are super satisfying, especially because you can see on the right the shades that I had already made. So it helped not only to have that vision of what I wanted to make, but to see what I had already made so that I was sure to make it unique from those ones. And here's just a little clip where you can see the finalized gloss getting poured into the vial. And here's what this shade looks like on the lips. I think it's a beautiful, deep, vampy purple while still being very wearable and day-to-day friendly. And as I said, with the red gloss and the blue gloss, I do think this one looks good all by itself. You don't have to wear this one as a combo to get it to look good on my skin tone. And then last but not least, I'm going to show you the shade Stormy. This is actually the first gloss that I ever made at Lip Lab. It was from last year when I made my first visit. And when I first went in, I didn't have as clear of a vision for what I wanted. So I think this gloss is super pretty, but I find that it's not quite as unique as the others because essentially it's a really, really deep green, but it looks almost black. And as you know, I do love a black gloss, but I wish it was a little bit greener. So sometime in the future, I could see myself making another green gloss. And here I'm just showing you a clip where they're taking the ratios of the pigments and putting them on a scale to measure out the gloss and then mixing it all together. There is something that is just so satisfying about seeing this process. And then after the gloss is all mixed up, it gets poured into the vial. And then at the very end, before you leave, you can have the name of your gloss engraved onto the lid. And then of course, a little try on of Stormy on the lips. And this gloss I actually didn't add sparkle to. I'm not sure if I knew that you could add sparkle the first time I went there. Either way, I'm not mad at how this one came out. I think it's super beautiful on the lips. Here's what all 5 shades that I've made at Lip Lab look like swatched on my arm. As I mentioned before, you can actually order replacements of these shades if you use them up and fell in love with the shades that you made. And I absolutely love the sense of permanence that creates. It's incredibly frustrating to fall in love with a product and then no longer be able to get it. And I totally know how much those of you who are into unique shades understand that because so many of those products end up being limited edition. I would love to know in the comments which of the shades I created is your favorite, and if you might consider going into Lip Lab to make your own creation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.